everyone. My name is Lucia Wang, and today we're going to talk about 5 ways to keep the spark alive in a relationship. There are two common questions that I hear a lot, and the first question is, how do I find happiness after being in a long-term relationship or marriage? This is like one of probably the number one most common question that I hear, because those of us who have been in a long-term relationship or been married, we know that after a while, when the newness has been long gone from the relationship, and now we're months or years into our relationship, um, there's for some reason many of us feel like we're not happy. So at this point, I would like you to consider buying this book, Fairy Tales Are for Frogs: The Reality of Happily Ever After. This is my most recent book that I wrote, and I think it would be helpful for anyone who's been in a long-term relationship or a marriage, because that is something that we all come across if we've been in that position. I myself have also asked that same question after being married now for 8.5 years. So I can tell you this is a recent book that I wrote that will be helpful to all of us who are in long-term relationships or have been married for a long time. It's very important that we find our happiness, and this book will definitely help guide us to find our happiness. Okay, and my book is available on through Amazon.com, or you can go through my YouTube profile page, and there's a link there in my profile for the book. So just want to say that. And the second most common question is, how do you keep the spark alive? This is probably the second most common question. And I'm glad that people ask this question, is because it's better than the alternative of giving up or trying to find another new relationship because we feel that the spark is gone. And many of us feel that once the spark or the passion is gone, that we feel there's something wrong with the relationship, or worse of case, we think it's time to end the relationship. And in reality, that's not the case. So today we're going to talk about that. Let me start out by saying that people are always changing and growing. Thus, relationships change and evolve too. People don't just stay the same once they commit to a relationship. And so, because of the ever changing nature of people and the relationships, people often feel something is wrong with the relationship or worry the relationship may not last. Okay, so I want to stop here and talk about that. That's something that, it's just normal that most of us feel that way. Once we found someone special and we went through the stages of a relationship and we're ready to get married, and then we actually make the commitment and we get married, somehow when we get married we think that the person that we are then and the person that our partner is then will is just locked in time, meaning that they'll never change. And folks, I'm here to tell you that's not reality. As we all know who've been in long-term relationships, we know that people are constantly changing. You're not the same person that you were when you were 20 that you're now 30, right? I same with everybody. As every 10 years or more, we're not the same person that we were. So if we got married early at age 20, we're not going to be the same person when we're 30 or 40 or 50, right? So that is part of the reason why um, it feels like, that's part of the reason why the relationship changes, and we feel like sometimes we feel there's something wrong with it, because whatever we felt early on in the beginning stages of the dating stages, which is the romance stage, we think that that will carry on through the rest of the marriage, and that's not the case. um, and so and I think this is because many people often mistake romance, chemistry, and lust as love. That's important. That's really a common thing. When we meet somebody, and we find somebody special and we fall in love, we most of us tend, and it may just be I'm not sure if it's women and men, probably both of us feel that way, because we all of us never really had formal education on relationships. This is all we know is the fairy tales and the movies we've seen as children, right? We see Cinderella, we see the prince and the princess, they get married, they live happily ever after, and we just think this is just the way it is and nothing changes, right? We just magically get married, live happily ever after, and all is good. Well, we that's a mistake. That Well, many of us think that romance, chemistry, and lust is love. even though it's a very powerful feeling, and we feel in the beginning stage of a relationship that we feel that we're in love, it's not really love. Um, the reason why the beginning romance stage of relationships always feel exciting and new is because the emotions are running high. It's the mystery of the unknown and the optimism combined with the novelty of a new relationship that gives us a powerful feeling of being in love, which we all know as chemistry. So let me just say that again. The reason why the beginning romance stage of relationships always feels exciting and new is because the emotions are running high. The mystery of the unknown and the optimism combined with the novelty of a new relationship gives us a powerful feeling of being in love, which we all know as chemistry. But I must caution you that it's not the reality of the relationship. Please check out my video on the 4 stages of a relationship if you haven't seen it yet. That video goes over all the stages. So we need to realize that romance is not real love. While it may feel like we're in love, the realness presents itself at the reality stage. So for those of you who haven't seen that previous video, I would highly recommend you go look at that video of the 4 stages of a relationship. I go over the 4 stages, and one of the stages is the reality stage. The first stage is romance. The second stage is reality. It's the reality stage when both partners see all the flaws and imperfections of each other. That's why, because the beginning stages, while it feels wonderful and it's fresh and we're in love at the romantic stage, it's not until we hit the reality stage that it's real. And that's when the rose-colored glasses come off, as you've heard me say in that video, and you see somebody for who they are, and they see you for who you are, all your flaws, your imperfections. While it may feel like we're in love, the realness presents itself at the reality stage when both partners see all the flaws and imperfections of each other. And when the differences and disagreements show up, it's only at what I call the resolution stage is whether those differences and conflicts can be resolved or dissolved. And more importantly, if the two people are mature and loving enough to reach a compromise. This is very important. When you get to the 3rd stage, which I call the resolution stage, which I coined the phrase resolve or dissolve. That means at this stage, when you're experiencing conflict, disagreements, arguments, differences, right? You need to resolve it or dissolve it. This is the stage that many people kind of overlook because they still may be caught up in the romance stage, that they're so much in love that they're not thinking clearly, they're not thinking objectively, and both, it's not just one party of the both. A lot of times both people are in that state of euphoria and they're blinded by love, and they don't want to see the reality of the situation. Or many of us talk ourselves to believing that that person maybe was just in a bad mood that day, or we'll get through this somehow, and we talk ourselves into thinking that things will be fine, that we'll work it out. But the funny thing about it, unless you actually take action to work it out, it never gets worked out. It just kind of gets slid under the carpet until a later date, right? So it's easy for people that don't like confrontation, which is a lot of us, by the way. A lot of us don't like confrontation. It's easy just to ignore it, because many of us, because we don't like the feeling of confrontation, we don't like having to deal with unpleasant feelings, right? We will try to ignore it and just push it off and focus on something else that's more pleasing to us. And the problem is in that stage of relationship, it's a false sense of security, and the issues really never go away. They will come up again at a later date. But I'm proposing that we address these issues while we're in the dating phase. You don't want this to happen when you're married, okay? Okay, so let me just say this again. And when the differences and disagreements show up, it's only at what I call the resolution stage, is whether those differences and conflicts can be resolved or dissolved. And more importantly, if the two are mature and loving enough to reach a compromise. So if you haven't, like I said, if you haven't seen that video, I highly recommend you go back and look at that video, because I do go into detail of the stages and what's involved as far as reaching a compromise. And if a couple can go through this resolution stage successfully, then real love is established and they are ready for the next stage, which is the ready stage. to move forward with a long-term commitment or marriage. Okay, so what I'm saying is the relationship changes by the time two people are at the final ready stage. And the intensity of the romantic stage morphs into a lesser intensity but smoother, more intimate, a warm feeling of peace and comfort instead of the emotional, exciting high of a fantasy during the beginning romantic stage. Okay, so if you think back, those of you have that can have been in long term relationships, or if you're not married, you can relate to this, right? When you first met somebody, there's that exhilaration high that you're feeling, right? But then as you get to know somebody, when you hit the realities stage, and then when you enter into conflict, which is the resolution stage, by the time you if you successfully are able to resolve conflict in a healthy manner and consistently, right? I do say that I would recommend that you give yourself at least 5 to 10 arguments before and see how you resolve each one before you move on to the next stage, which is the final ready stage of commitment. And so, if you think about it, when you get to that stage, the feeling, the excitement you had at the beginning stages is not there anymore. It changed, right? It became more real, which most people would say it's comfortable. The relationship feels more comfortable. You may still have very high. You may still feel a lot of affection and chemistry towards your partner, but the level of excitement has waned a little bit. But it doesn't change. The relationship actually grew. It became more real, and the friendship is a deeper friendship, and that's what you want when you're at the ready stage. Hopefully you're at that stage where the friendship is much deeper and real friendship. Um, okay, so I like to. So let me just say this again. So what I'm saying is, in the relationship changes by the time two people are at the final ready stage, and the intensity of the romantic stage morphs into a lesser intensity, but smoother, more intimate, warm feeling of peace and comfort instead of the emotional, exciting high of a fantasy during during what was felt at the romantic stage. Think of it as the stages of a firewood burning in the fireplace. I was thinking about how I can make an example how we can think of this. So if you think of a firewood that's burning in the fireplace, the firewood starts out with a loud crackling noises, but in time as the flame goes out, the noise gets quieter, but the embers are still hot and glowing. If you can picture that, this is sort of what the stages of a relationship are like. But the good news is that we can still do things to keep the spark alive, like stoking the embers in the fireplace to keep it glowing. Um, so that's I think that's a pretty fair, pretty accurate picture of how I would view a relationship as it changes through the stages. Right? It starts out like if you think about a fireplace, how in the beginning it's the flames are high, brilliant colors. You can hear the crackling in the wood, right? And and you can sometimes you can hear the roar of the flames, right? So that I compare that to the romantic stage. But then as the relationship changes and becomes more comfortable, it's like when towards the end of the night, in the evening, when the fireplace starts to die down a little bit. As I said, the flame starts to go out a little bit. Um, the embers are still hot and glowing. You can still see the faint red glow in the embers, right? And that's to me, that is like the final stage of relationship when you're ready, is when you've worked out all the kinks, the differences, you accept each other for who you each other are, right? And now you're comfortable in the relationship because now you have confidence after going through many arguments and disagreements that you're able to resolve conflict in a healthy, productive manner. And communication is all part of that, right? So when you get to that stage where you feel that you know somebody very well, you accept somebody, they accept you, you both accept each other for who each other are, for all the good, bad, and ugly, and you're able to resolve conflict in a very healthy, productive manner, then you're ready for the ready stage for commitment. And by that time, it feels comfortable, right? There's no more, you know that person well, they know you well, and there's a level of comfort there and peace. And that is like the embers in the fireplace that keeps it glowing. So now we're going to talk about the 5 ways we can keep the spark alive using the letters of the word spark, SPARK. And and like I said, when people ask this question, I think they ask it with the intention, hoping that they'll get the answer of how we can bring back that intensity that we had when we first met. That I just want to say now that I don't mean to be the I don't want to mean to rain on your parade, folks, but the reality is we probably will never get back that level of intensity. And the reason why is because that was a new relationship. Anything that's new is always exciting. Another example is I think about when you're a kid at Christmas time, right? The excitement before you open the gifts. And why were we all excited as kids to open up a Christmas gift? Because the gift is new. We don't know what's inside the gift, right? So it's that anticipation of mystery, not knowing. And that's what happens when you first meet somebody. It's the same thing. It's just a normal level of excitement because of the newness of the relationship. But what happens after we open up our gifts? Now we know what the gifts are. And we after we play with the gifts after a week or two, what's the feeling then? The excitement is gone, right? We still might be happy that we got the gift and we're comfortable now playing with the gift, right? If we really like the gift. But the level of excitement is not gone. Is now gone. And the reason why is because it's not new anymore. It's the same thing with a relationship. We're and that's why people fall into the trap of that new feeling. They think that's love, and then once the newness is gone and the feeling in the chemistry, the level of chemistry, the passion is gone, they think there's something wrong with the relationship, or maybe there's something wrong with them or their partner. And then some people think they're going to go searching for greener pastures elsewhere to try to find that level of intensity of passion again. And the sad part is history will repeat itself. They will find again that in time the relationship, the intensity will fizzle out, and then they're back to feeling like they think there's something wrong because the spark is no longer there. So, and sadly enough, there are a lot of people that can go through years and years and keep making the same mistake over and over again. They keep going for that high. They keep changing partners, thinking they just think they haven't met the right person. They're in this false thinking that the right person, they will have this level of intensity forever, and that's an ideal. It's not reality. It'd be nice if we all could be on that high forever, but even our bodies kind of need time to. I think it's healthier for our bodies when we're at a level of peace and stability, right? If we were always hyped up, if our bodies are always hyped up and just like inflammation in your body, I don't think that's healthy for a person long term. I don't think for your health it's really a healthy situation. Now there are some benefits of being in a euphoric state, right? Because your adrenaline is rushing and the all the chemicals in your brain are all firing on all cylinders. So there is some positive aspects to that level of high, but I don't think it's sustainable. If it's sustainable, I don't think it's healthy. It would just be like a runner running a marathon forever and never ending. Eventually, the heart would just collapse. The human body isn't made for that, and the bottom line is it's just not healthy if we think that we want to be in that high forever. So anyway, I want to let's go over. This is a very important topic because I think most of us need to realize as I said before, the reality of a relationship, how it changes in time, and now the question is not so much how to go back to the original spark, the initial intensity. The question is the spark that I'm talking about is the embers in the fire that's glowing. How do you keep that glowing and comfortable and peaceful, right? How do you keep that relationship at an equal stability where you're at peace and just maintain that? Okay, so here these are the 5 things. The letter S is for sex. Okay, which I also have said in my first video, finding how to find your right how to find the right partner. Excuse me. I talk about sex as being a fun, enjoyable activity. No more, no less. Even though it's an intimate, fun, enjoyable activity, it's just still at the end of the day, it's an activity. Okay, so it is the continual, ongoing engaging in fun activities together. So if you're not able to have sex for whatever reason, as we all age, for you young people out there who don't have any health issues, you still need to hear this because this is important. We are all aging, right? As some of us age, sooner or later, you will have health issues. Now I know there are a lot of elder people that are still having sex and they're very healthy, and that's great. God bless them. I that's wonderful. But I also know the reality is that a lot of us who have aged for whatever reason, their health is not up to par, and when you get to 50 and 60 and older, you start having health issues. And men, especially, even at a young age, men could have issues, right? They could have sexual performance issues. um, and the erectile dysfunction is a common thing that men go through. Women also may have their issues. They have to go through surgery, uh, ovarian cancer. They have to remove their ovaries. Next thing you know, they're having also performance issues in bed, right? So, and it's not just that. There's a host of all other health issues that can come up that will affect your mood and your maybe your even your physical ability to have sex. Um, so with that said, if not sex, then there are other fun activities to engage in, like kissing, affection, holding hands, plan a date once a week, see a movie, go out to eat, concerts, etc. There's so many activities that two people can have fun, can engage in to have fun, other than sex. Now, I don't want to downplay sex. Sex is a wonderful thing, folks. If you both enjoy it and you both are at optimum health, by all means, enjoy it. Absolutely, right? Because you never know someday when you're not able to. So when you can, definitely enjoy it. But I would caution to say, don't make that the major focus, though, because there's so many other activities that are just as equally pleasurable and fun where two people can bond. Okay. The key is having fun, especially if sex is not possible due to the physical or health limitations, which I just spoke about earlier. As I said in my previous video, finding the right partner, life could happen at any time to anyone, like tragic accidents or health issues that could one day cause sex to be no longer a possible activity, but it's not the end of the relationship. Because sex is an enjoyable, fun activity, but it's not the only fun, enjoyable activity in the world. Okay, enough said. I think I've said that enough already. There are plenty of fun activities two people can enjoy together when sex is no longer an option. Okay, so let's be realistic about sex. We often selfishly just look at our needs and think to ourselves, if our partner's changed and can't have sex anymore, then I may have to leave the relationship. So I want to pause for a second and have us just take a minute and think about this. Really? Is that how some of us really think? That if our partner for some reason can't have sex anymore, then we're gonna question whether we should remain in the relationship? I want to challenge us to open our minds and think, what if the shoe was on the other foot and something unexpected and unfortunate happens to us and we are no longer able to have sex? How would you feel if your partner chooses to abandon you because of no sex? Think about it, right? Most of the time we think of our partner, if they can't have sex, then we often think it's our partner first and then how we'll react. Well, now I'd like you to open your mind and think about, what if something happens to you someday? We're not all invincible, right? Even the best of us will get sick, right? We may not get sick as often as other people, but in time, you just never know, right? If not now, later. But I want you to open your mind and think for a second. If something happened to you specifically and you're not able to have sex anymore, how would you feel if your partner abandoned you? If they made sex the highest priority in the relationship, how would you feel? Obviously, it's not a good feeling. I think sex has been overrated in our society with social media and movies to the extent that it has misled us to a false view of what real love is. I think our society in general has been sexualized too much. If you look at the movies, the romance movies, it's just all about sex, right? It's I rarely see a movie where a relationship, it shows the development of a friendship first and the relationship. and how to build a healthy, strong bond prior to having sex. It seems like these movies just kind of give the portrayal that you just magically fall in love, you ride off into the sunset, you have sex, and then you have kids, and you live happily ever after. Well, and the movies just really just focus on the sex. So it's very misleading, and I think all of us need to kind of rethink what we actually have been misled to think what real love is. So let's be real about sex and realize that it's not love. It's just one of many fun, enjoyable activities. So, getting back to my original point for number one is planning fun, enjoyable activities regularly to help keep the spark alive. So, number one, as I said, is having sex or doing fun, enjoyable activities together as one way to keep the spark alive. Number two, priority. Priority, it's the continual ongoing of prioritizing your relationship. You and your partner both need to feel both your relationship is the highest priority. Now, this is tricky. For those of us who've been in marriage for a long time, if you have children especially, it's very easy. It's normal that in the beginning stages when you have children, that your attention will be focused on raising your children. And I understand that. I get that. But even so, it's very important that the husband and wife make time for each other, during and make each other a priority. There's obviously there's going to be times where things like work or emergencies, children, it will come before the relationship. But I'm just saying overall, the attitude, the way you treat your spouse, that should give off the feeling to your spouse and they to you that your relationship is number one. I hear a lot of complaints that, especially coming from men, that women, after they have children, they put their children number one above their spouse. That's a recipe for disaster, folks. I know that, it's difficult to not feel that way, but unless you're not looking to maintain a marriage later on, or unless you don't care if the relationship is not at its peak, it's not in the best interest of the both of you to start to forget and not put the relationship the highest priority. It's especially difficult, as I said, yeah, to do this when you're having and if you have a demanding job as well, not just children, but if you're having demanding jobs, if you're not, for those of you who are not married in long-term relationships, this could happen if you have a demanding job, right? And if you have a busy life, you have all these activities, you go to the gym, you do all these things during the day, you could easily somehow forget to put your partner as the highest priority. There are only 24 hours in a day, but we have to intentionally carve out time for our partners to spend time with them. Talk to them, even if it's just 15 minutes at the end of the day, to see how they're feeling and how things are going at their workplace. It helps to keep communication flowing. So let me say this again. There are only 24 hours in a day, but we have to intentionally carve out time for our partners to spend time with them. Talk to them, even if it's just for 15 minutes at the end of the day to see how they are feeling and how things are going at their workplace. It helps to keep communication flowing. And for those of you that are stay home moms, it's from you husbands out there or you men out there, when you come home, you need to carve out time to talk to your wife and ask her how her day was with the kids. Be patient and listen to her. You may not be in the mood. I mean, I know if you have a stressful day at work or you're tired, you still need to find the time. Make your relationship a priority. You married your wife. She's the love of your life. Don't forget that. So sit down with her, even for 10, 15 minutes, hold her hand and ask her how her day went with the kids. Ask her if there's anything you could help that she needs your help with. And women, same with you. I know you've had a rough day with the kids, right? When your husband comes home after dinner, after everything is put away and kids are sleeping, sit down with your husband for 10 or 15 minutes. Ask him how his day went at work. Even though you may not be interested in what he does, or you may not even, sometimes our husbands have jobs that are very technical. I know my previous husband, he had a very technical job working for the aerospace industry. And so his job was really technical. And so I may not have understood all the intricacies and the details of what he did, but I still try to take interest in his work and learn, right? So that will go a long way. Everybody wants to feel that that they're cared for, that their spouse still is interested in them, right? And so, although you may not understand what your husband does, it's still very important to make the effort and sit down with him, ask him how his day went. And if he starts talking about his work, about technical things, if there's something he said or a term that you don't understand, ask him what he means by that. I always do. There's no shame here, right? I mean, there's no egos here. If your husband is working in technical field, there's going to be terms he's going to use or acronyms that they have at work all the time they may not understand. So I just politely interrupt and say, "Excuse me, what does that stand for? Like, if there's an acronym, what does that acronym stand for? Or if he says a word that I never heard of, what does that word mean?" I mean, it's okay. That just shows that will show him that you're interested, right? And it also helps you understand too, because if you don't understand what he's saying, how are you ever going to get interested in what he's saying, right? So if the more you partake and get interested in what he's talking about and learn about what he does, it will help you to also have a better understanding of what he does. And that will help to bond both of you. And just like the husband takes time to understand what you're going through with the kids, it's all going to help to build that spark. So 2 was making each other a priority. 3 is A for appreciation. It's the continual ongoing expressing continuous appreciation, like flowers, praise, or gifts. Showing appreciation doesn't have to cost a lot of money. You can make your partner his favorite meal, or give your wife a nice neck massage or foot massage, etc. Folks, there's so many creative ways that you can come up with ways to show appreciation to your significant other. I just named a couple, but every relationship, as I said before, every relationship is different. You'll learn things about each other that is unique to the two of you, or unique to each of you. So, though, knowing that, you can find creative ways to show that you appreciate your partner. And like I said, if you have a little bit of money, I know men like to give flowers, and you've heard me say this before in one of my previous videos. Let him give you flowers, okay? So that's just a common way men like to show appreciation. I would never, if you want to cut corners in costs and save money, I would not cut corners in that area, as you've heard me say in my previous video. Let him give you flowers. Let him show his feelings for you, okay? And another way is to praise. Show praise to each other. Your husband, he did something nice, or he built something in the backyard, right? Praise him. Like my husband, he built his shed. Great job, dear, right? And gifts, little gifts. You don't have to buy expensive gifts. If you want to, fine, but it's not necessary to get the message across that you appreciate somebody. But like I said, your partner, right? You know what they like. I for instance, my ex-husband, he loves those chocolate covered cherries, right? So Christmas time, I bought him. Every Christmas I bought him chocolate covered cherries. He loved it, right? And those they don't cost that much. It's small, a little tiny small box of cherries you could buy at Walmart. Loved it, right? And every now and then, and I bought other things too, like chocolate covered pretzels, right? But that was more expensive, which is fine. I mean, Christmas time, I usually just go all out, right? But I'm, getting back to what I'm saying though, it's important to show appreciation. Okay, number 4 is rejuvenation. R for rejuvenation. It's the continual ongoing rejuvenating when rest and relaxation is needed sometimes. Some of us have a busy lifestyle, work is stressful, and we're always on the go. To prevent us from getting burnt out and feeling totally exhausted, we need to take time out to occasionally rejuvenate ourselves, to replenish the energy and find relaxation. And that could mean going on a short vacation to just get away, have a change of scenery, to refresh and rejuvenate your mind and body. Some of us work so hard that we don't have the energy or time left for a relationship. So it's important to rejuvenate regularly as needed. If you can't afford to go on a luxurious, expensive vacation, you can just go for a long drive somewhere with your partner for a change of scenery. So, yeah, this rejuvenation is important. I know in one of my jobs a long time ago, when I was in my mid-20s, I was in customer service, and I was responsible for the eastern part of the United States and eastern Canada. So all those calls, I had a lot of phone calls that came in every single day. So you can imagine, after I would say about 2 or 3 months of customer service, I was ready to throw the phone out the window, right? I needed that time to rejuvenate. So my husband at the time, we would frequently go on vacation. I would say maybe 6 times a year, every other month or every few months. When I needed that mind break, we would go on vacation for a long weekend or something like that, right? We would go for a weekend, um, and just relax and have fun. So that's very important. That, and this, maybe you can link that with part of the thing about having fun, right? But this is a little different though. Rejuvenating is not just having fun. It's relaxing your mind. It's clearing the clutter out of your mind, clearing the stress. It's distressing, right? It's detoxifying. Um, and I just gave one example of work where I needed that break just to give my mind, to clear my mind, so that I can come back. I can come back relaxed. And when I usually when I come back after a weekend of that, I feel very good. I'm on this vacation high, and I'm ready to go back into work again for another couple months. So how this relates to other people, it could be just if you have a stressful job, if you have a toxic job or toxic coworkers or toxic boss, whatever is the situation in your life, um, those are all situations that will wear you down, and it will change your mood, right? And it will make you feel, it'll get you burnt out and exhausted and mentally exhausted. And so it's important to have to make that time to rejuvenate. And like I said, if you don't have vacation time, or you don't have the money to go on expensive vacations or frequent kind of vacations, then I would recommend that you just, even if just going for a short drive for a few hours, right? Just, or drive, or like I live close to the beach, so I'm 10 minutes away. I can just go to the beach, and we could just go there and just have a picnic, relax, and listen to the waves and talk, right? For those of you, I don't know where you live, but you can just drive somewhere, you and your spouse or you and your partner, and go somewhere that you can just go there, a change of scenery, right? You can just go there, relax, have lunch maybe, or pack a lunch if you don't want to pay for lunch, and just go out for a drive. Stop at a park somewhere and just relax. Look at, or pull out a blanket and lay on the grass and look at the sky, and just, or just take it all in, right? Just relax. Let your mind clear from all the stress. It's very, very important. And I think most of us are on the go. We're in a society where everything is fast paced, changing all the time, and we're always on our phone. And that's another thing, being on the phone. It is a lot. Where if we're always on the phone, is also occupying a lot of time and energy from your mind. So to be able to just take time out to plug out of all that, leave your phone in the car, right, or leave your phone at home, go out for a drive, and just chill for a few hours. It makes a big difference as far as um, having that space, and having the clear mind to be able to enjoy spending time with your spouse. That this rejuvenating will also help keep the spark alive in your relationship. And last but not least, the fifth thing is kindness. K for kindness. It is the continual, ongoing kindness towards each other. It's remembering to be polite as you were when you first met. Saying kind and polite words like please and thank you. And if you remember that, think back when you first met, right? Doesn't matter if you're in a long-term relationship or if you're married. Think back when you and your partner first met. You didn't start off by being rude, right? When you first met, let's say you met at a restaurant, you didn't say, um, you didn't say things like, uh, "Hand me that napkin." You didn't say that, right? Or hand me the salt, right? We don't talk like that when we first meet somebody. You're on your best behavior. You're putting your best foot forward. So typically in the beginning of a relationship, everyone's polite and courteous. Will you please hand me the salt, right? Right? Would you mind getting me a napkin? right? Or even when you talk to the waiter or waitress, same thing. When you get a chance, when you get a moment, could you please bring us over some more napkins? But you notice the tone of voice and you notice the wording. We're using polite phrases, please, thank you, right? And it's amazing to me how a lot of us, once we get comfortable, we get settled in a relationship after years, um, we all somehow just forget just the common courtesy to our significant other. And believe it or not, it makes a difference. It really does, because um, being polite, it shows respect. It works both ways. It shows that you still have a minimal level of respect for each other, regardless of what's going on. It's very important. And the other way of showing kindness is making a request by asking, not demanding. This is a common thing that a lot of us do wrong too. That we get so comfortable with somebody that we don't even think about asking them. We just automatically assume, and we just kind of come across as demanding and very uh, presumptive. I guess that's the word, presumptive, that they're going to do what we expect them to do, right? And even though even though if folks, if you know this person for some reason, you know what that they're going to do this for you, it still is in the best interest of the relationship to remember to ask and not to demand. I'm guilty of this too. Okay, so as an example, I need you to drive me to the airport, right? Let's say you have to go somewhere, a business trip, or your husband needs to go visit family, whatever. I need you to drive me to the airport. Now, okay, that's a direct request. That's a direct comment statement, but it's not really a request. It's kind of demanding, right? Even if you say it a nice way, honey, I need you to drive me to the airport. It's still not a request, right? So instead, politely ask, will you be able to drive me to the airport? Even though you know the answer is yes, obviously, right? But how it's perceived, how it comes across to the other person that's receiving it makes a big difference. It's showing minimal respect, that you're being courteous, that you're not assuming that they're, somehow you're married to you and they're your slave forevermore, right? And that whatever you want, they're going to just hand it to you with no questions asked. I mean, it does make a difference how it's presented. If you say, will you be able to drive me to the airport, you're giving the person a choice, even though you know they're going to say yes. But it just, from the receiving point of view, they're going to take this more positively. And again, it's just all part of being kind to your partner, taking into consideration how you're delivering the message. Sometimes it's not so much the message, but it's the delivery of the message. And so, especially for those of us who are in the middle of a conflict, or we're going through some tough times with our spouse, if you know you're going through, or if you know that you're going through a period of stress, something's going on right now, either with their work or transition in the family, or family emergency, or children's got, have problems, or whatever. If you, especially if you're in a situation with your partner at a rough time in your relationship, this is the last this is the time that you do not want to be unkind. This is the time that you most want to definitely practice being kind in your words. That will help soften anything that could proceed as harsh, or especially if you are going through a hard time with your significant other right now. This this will help to keep things from escalating. Okay? So, also doing kind acts like giving your partner a cold bottle of water if they're mowing the lawn, offering to help your partner in the kitchen while they're cooking, etc. Those are two examples. I do that. When my husband's out mowing the lawn, I will, after about a half hour or 20 minutes, depending if it's the summertime or winter, I'll go out and give him a bottle of cold water. I know he likes drinking cold water, so I'll go out and give it to him so he doesn't get dehydrated, right, and get sick. So that's just a little way that I show kindness, right? I know I know I appreciate that. As a kid, as a teenager, my siblings and I took turns to mow the lawn, and my father would sit outside and watch us mow the lawn, and then after a certain period of time, he'd go in the house and get us something to drink, like iced tea or whatever. And I really appreciate that. It made me feel so warm and that I was cared for. Seeing my father, I still remember he'd sit outside in a lawn chair watching me go around. We had a riding mower and we had a push mower. So my brother and I, we would take turns. If I'm mowing the back, I'm using the riding mower, and then he will use the front yard with the push mower because the front yard was smaller. And then the following week we would switch. I would do the front and he would do the back. So, but I remember as a really pleasant memory as a kid, um, my father would come outside. He would sit outside in the back on a chair and look at, just observe, watching me, kind of like keeping me company, even though he's not mowing the lawn, but he's keeping me company. I felt like he was keeping me company. And then after a while, he'd go in the house and get me a cold glass of iced tea. I love that. There's just the littlest acts. It just shows that he was caring. My father was not a man of many words. My father was of the a lot of the a lot of the Asian generation, older generations, they don't really express their love with words. It's more with actions. And my father was definitely one of those men that he you could it was we knew he loved us by through his actions, not so much his words. Now as an adult, he's as we get older, he is saying I love you now. But when we were kids, I knew he loved us. Just little acts of kindness showed me that he loved us, and I felt loved. All of us kids felt loved. So, um, and you see, and for you men out there, if your wife is the cook, go and ask her if she, even though she's going to probably say no, or she'll say, yeah, why don't you go and set the table, whatever she says. And even if you know for a fact that she may not need your help, she never does, right? It's still worth bearing the question, or do other things that you think could show her kindness, whatever that may be. Um, there's so many different ways, and I think it's important that we all take the time to find the ways to show kindness and to be kind to one another. Kindness keeps the heart warm and makes us continually feel loved. And if you practice being kind daily, the spark will be alive forever, for sure. So I just want to, I would like to say again, just to repeat that uh, kindness is something that will help keep the heart warm and make us feel continually loved. And that will all go towards keeping the spark alive in your relationship. Oftentimes, most couples who have been together for a long time tend to take each other for granted, and it's important to practice these 5 things. So I just want to recap this whole conversation. It is a fact. I don't know why. Maybe it's because we get awfully comfortable, or we just get lazy. I mean, in all honesty, I think most of us just get lazy after we find someone and and we get committed to somebody and we've been with someone for a long time. For some reason, we all take each other for granted. We all do that, or maybe I'll say most of us, because maybe there is that 1 or 2% of couples out there who are so filled with love that they always practice these things. But for the rest of us, um, I just want to say that the question is not how to keep the high intensity passion from the romantic stage alive. The question needs to be, how do we keep the spark alive? Spark meaning not the intention and the high intensity, but the the those the embers, that glowing warm embers in the fireplace that I talked about earlier. How do we keep the relationship feeling comfortable and warm? And so the 5 things are to have regular sex or fun, or fun, often, regularly. Make each other a priority. P for priority, very important. A, appreciate one another. Find ways to show appreciation to each other. R, rejuvenate as needed. And 5, kind. To be kind daily. So I hope you guys have found this video very informative and helpful, and answers a lot of questions, uh, especially the question of how to keep the spark alive. Um, Feel free to post comments and questions. I'll be happy to answer them. And click like and click share if you enjoyed this video. And definitely please subscribe to my channel so you'll be kept abreast on when my next video is going to be. Okay? So, guys, please remember to keep the spark alive in your relationships, and I will see you soon. Thanks. Okay, bye.